early from the book launch. Hang tight. So we're having some exciting book launch activities going on after 12 o'clock. So hang tight. All right, Russ is going to join us here. Yeah. Afternoon, brother.
How you doing, man?
Doing good. Thanks for getting me set up with Restream.
Yeah. Let me get this shared to my channels too. There is Facebook. There is YouTube. There is the Men's Healing Group. What are we missing? We're on all the grams.
I love it. Yeah, I'm live on Facebook and live on my YouTube channel. So
isn't this such great technology that we can reach so many people at the same time?
You know, it's crazy to think about that, because if we were doing a book launch back in 10 years ago, just even that far back, we wouldn't be able to reach the number of people we're going to talk to today at all.
No, we wouldn't. It's exciting. It's an exciting time we live in.
It's very exciting. Let me jump a second here.
So I'm going to pull up Facebook over here, because I'm pretty sure we can see chats from all the different platforms.
Oh, right on.
If you open the chat. So if they have questions for us, you can go directly in the chat. But the only thing that we don't receive is chats from Facebook. So you have to have Facebook open separately to see the chats from Facebook.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right, let's see here.
Where am I at?
It is 12 o'clock. Are you able to play that video that you created from your stream?
It's not letting me. I might be able to play it on my screen. It's not showing me as live. Give me just a second here.
Okay. Good morning, Tan.
Tan's on there?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And if you want to invite any of the other authors on, you can just send them a link and it'll bring them up in this same screen with us.
Gotcha. I've got one of the gal that wrote the foreword for us, beautiful lady Teresa. She's in the studio on hold right now. I'm going to introduce her after we get going. I'm going to have her join Facebook Live on that side, but we'll get her in the studio here in a few minutes. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, so it is showing up inside your event.
Oh, it is? Oh.
That's what it looks like, but it's not showing up inside of mine, which is fine.
Fascinating. All right.
Yeah. So it looks like whoever the host is, if they created an event through Restream, it'll automatically show up inside that event.
Oh, okay.
But it's showing me live on the Facebook.
That's exciting. Looks like we got 5 people joining us so far, and we're growing.
Ooh, nice. Very cool.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right.
I'm just gonna put. Let me find my original posting for this event so I can just let everybody know that they need to come over to this one. But go ahead, man. Go ahead. I'll catch up.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, I want to welcome everybody to the Empowered Grief Journey Anthology book launch today. Thank you guys for joining us live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Basically, we're anywhere, or we're everywhere and anywhere on social. That's just how it is. And I got to give a prop to my man Russell real quick because he got me a platform this morning to make this a lot easier to connect with you guys in one place. And so I wanted to share that this book that we all wrote, 23 of us, there's a copy. This is an author copy, by the way. Don't mind the stripe here. But I want to share that this book was written by 23 different people across the world, everybody from Canada to the United States to Australia. To my friend Sadie in this book, by the way, she's gone everywhere from India to Mexico and a few other places in the process of writing their chapters. And, what I'm going to share with you guys really quickly is that this whole project came out of a big, deep healing part of my life. I lost my son, Caden, to stillbirth one day before he was supposed to be born. His heart stopped. And I went through a very deep depression after that because losing a child is not something we should be experiencing in life. We're living life in reverse when that happens. And I was very lost and confused going through that and did not know how to handle my grief and let alone figure out how to heal from that. And so I jumped into the grief space as a coach. I jumped into areas of healing with a lot of different people, as you guys will find out when you read the book. But what I want to share more importantly is that it was such a great honor to be able to create a legacy for my son and share that space with these 23 authors in this book. It was something bigger and better than I ever thought would have happened. And the magic inside this book is that we're all sharing grief stories and healing journeys from various different parts of life. This book covers everything from adoption loss to child loss to going through narcissistic abuse, having abusive family members. It talks a lot about, different losses in many, many areas of life that I can go into a little bit later. But I've seen some of these people that have gone through the roughest moments of life, the moments that break us down and really make us question who we are, why we're here, those really deep questions in the dark places. They're doing some of the most beautiful work in this world right now. And so the real power inside this book is that it's not going to tell you how to do it. It's not going to say, here's this 12-step process to heal from grief and get over it and move on and let it go. It's not going to do that for you. But what it is going to show you is that the power of being raw and authentic and vulnerable with your emotions, your grief, and giving yourself space to process what you went through and learn about yourself as you go through that process. All of these authors are going to show you a very powerful way to discover your own empowered grief journey, to figure out what works for you. And my hope is that you read all the chapters in the book because all these stories have collective power within them. But my hope is that you'll take away one or two things from each of these chapters that will help empower you through grief, because grief doesn't have to be always a very traumatic, very dark part of our life. It can very well be the thing that turns another page and another chapter for us to create a new life, a place to start over, one from empowerment, one from honoring and remembering the loss we went through, and carrying us forward, by the way, so that we can help other people where we once stood. Because those people that are in the same place where we were, they're just as lost and confused as we were. They're also uncertain and unsure about what life holds, just like we were. And so, what not a better gift for us to discover our own healing, our own path forward, and then share that and pay it forward with those people who are in that same place we were. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful gift. So I'm really excited for you guys to be on here today, sharing this big, momentous opportunity with all of us. You guys are going to be hearing from a lot of these authors that are in the book. You guys are going to get to meet them. You're going to hear a little bit about their stories. I also have people like Russ, who's helping me with tech and put together a very beautiful opening video for us to watch to really celebrate and honor the collective work of this group. So I'm very passionate. I'm very, very grateful. I'm very, very honored, and I'm very, very humble to have met all the authors in this project. As much as they have told me I have helped them in certain ways, they have paid it forward in me in ways I can't even put in words, but they've helped me heal so much in this journey. And I could not be where I am today, by the way, if I had not had the support and I had not learned from them. I would not be who I am today. So I have a very, very big place in my heart for you guys with nothing but gratitude and appreciation for all that you guys have shared, all that you've contributed to this book, and collectively what we're about to go do next, because we've created a movement in the grief space that is very different. It's very empowering, and it's something that's going to move people forward in a way that just inspires and empowers a pay it forward mentality in the world through grief and loss. So without further ado, I'm going to let Russ play us this video. You guys are going to love it. So hang tight.
I just need you to enable the screen share, brother. You just got to do it over there on the, yeah. So here it is. Oh, wrong one.
That's today, Russ.
Of course, right? You know what? I'll just talk for a minute.
For those of you guys watching, by the way, this is part of healing right here, is being able to laugh at yourself.
Absolutely.
That's the best part.
So, well, just being able to laugh, right? Being able to laugh about is what's fun.
Yeah, you gotta make fun of yourself sometimes. Okay.
Yeah. What did I do? All right.
Well, while Russ is looking that up, you know, you guys are going to see what I really think is the big more important part of this project is what we're going to show you guys next. So let's see here. And by the way, I want to thank all of you guys that did pre-order the book. There were quite a few orders that came through my website. People that had downloaded the Kindle version of this book. The paperback is out on Amazon. I'll be going over a little bit of that a little bit later on. But I just want to say a big thank you for that upfront support. It's truly been something special to see. And I'm going to share with you guys now this amazing video Russ put together for us. So I love that. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that.
Kind of blew the fun part of it, but hey, you know, whatever.
You know what? We're having fun either way. That's what
absolutely. It's a party, right?
It's a party.
A celebration.
So I wanted to share with you guys this clip for a big reason. I want you to meet all the authors. I want you to see who they are, because we come from various different walks of life, various different backgrounds, different belief systems, different kinds of loss. And there's such a variety to life in this book. And that's what I think is so powerful about our book, The Empower Grief Journey, is that there is no one way to heal. There's no right or wrong way to do it. There's so many ways that you can work through healing. There's so many, what I like to call hidden gifts, lessons, and blessings inside of our path. And what I think is beautiful about that is when we discover that, there's so much we can do to go out there in the world and help other people. And when we live in that place of gratitude and appreciation and contribution from what we've gone through, we're able to go make the world truly a better place. And so what Russ has pulled up here is our Amazon site we got together. You guys will see the book cover there. I put a big description about the book so you guys can learn more about what this book really is and what's underneath it. Today through Wednesday, I want to let you guys know this book is available for free on Kindle. So you guys can download it, get your feet wet, read your chapters. A lot of you guys that are on right now, if you're friends with whatever author, I recommend starting with their chapter. Go for it. If you guys are friends with Russ, read his chapter first. If you guys are friends with Allie or you guys are friends with Teresa, read their chapters. Read what they've done. I want to give a shout out to Teresa real quick because she helped me with a part of the project that I was really struggling to find the right person to do, because this book, in a way, needed to be honored in a very strong fashion. And I was very grateful to meet Teresa through podcasting. She and I podcasted together about a few months back. She's an author herself. She has a beautiful book. And long story short, she offered to write this forward for us. And I will confidently tell you guys, when you read the forward, it will meet you exactly where you are. And I'm going to pull it up real quick so I can share the first couple lines on it. However you've arrived at this moment, know this: You're exactly where you're meant to be. The universe has guided you to this book, and only you and your creator know why. The Empower Grief Journey, 23 Stories of Grief that carved a new path forward, is more than a collection of stories. It's a sanctuary of healing, love, and transformation. And Teresa, I'm going to let her talk here in a second. I'm going to pull her up on the screen. She wrote a beautiful, beautiful foreword. It's going to make me cry if I read the rest of it because it was so powerful. But I want to let you guys know an excerpt from that foreword to start the book, because it was something that truly honored all of our stories in this book, and it really summated nicely what this project is about. So, Teresa, I'm going to pull you in real quick so you can say hi to everybody.
Hello.
Hi. Thanks for joining today.
Oh, I'm really thrilled to be here. Thanks, guys, for pulling this all together. Russ, well done. You know what? Things happen, and they happen for a reason, and it's all right. You got through it. It's well. It's great.
That's right.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
So, Teresa, the reason I wanted to say a big thank you and have you come on today is that you, in many ways, were the right person to write this forward, because you yourself have gone through a tremendous grief journey for many, many decades of your life. And I just want to say I'm very, very honored and very humbled to have had you write that forward, because you were the right person who's walked this walk through life in ways that most people haven't experienced. And to understand grief and understand trauma and understand loss on a very profound level, and to have read some of these chapters in the book. I remember I sent you probably 3 or 5 chapters to write it. It was just such a beautiful thing that you contributed to the book. So a big way, I just want to say thank you, but I wanted to open this up for you to talk a little bit about what that was like to write the foreword, and what your initial thoughts were about the chapters, because I hadn't shared them with anybody at that point.
Oh, it was first of all, thank you for the incredible honor to write the foreword. I was so emotionally overwhelmed, Chris. I truly value what you and I have created together. And I thank you from the bottom of my being, my soul, for allowing me to create this foreword for everyone. And when you sent me 4 stories, including your own, and I was so absorbed in them. I could not get through most of them without reflecting on my own life, on my own journey, on my own grief processing. And also, as a coach, you look for these things. You need to understand how people process grief differently. And this was really a good exercise for me to read 4 or 5 different stories based on their grief journey. And honestly, one of yours touched me immensely, because I have also lost 3 pregnancies. And so that, it really touched my heart and my soul. There was one in there that was dealing with grief of a parent or grandparent. I can't remember which one it was. I should have done my homework and found which one it was.
That's Jill McLennan's chapter I sent you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That one actually brought me to my knees in my own grief journey, because I thought I had processed all of it. And then I read that and I realized I had not. I still have some work to do, as we all do, as we all travel through life and this journey of life. That for me was the most jaw-dropping story that I read. And because of that, I am on a deeper journey in myself right now to clear out what I thought was gone, but was hidden. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all of the authors who have contributed, because without you and without bearing your soul and sharing your stories, we wouldn't be making grief an actual word that doesn't have a lot of stigma attached to it. We want it to be a healing process, and everyone can come through this healed and in a new light. Yes, it transforms us, but what comes out the other side is such a miracle.
You couldn't have said that better, my friend, because that's what I have noticed on my own grief journey. Is I've had so many people tell me, you got to let go of things and get over it and move on, and you can't stay in that place. You can't sit there with it. And I've watched so many people bury emotions in themselves. I mean, it's like a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. And in a lot of ways, it's not going to go off in the right way, by the way, when we do that. And so for us to really transform grief into something of empowerment, not a negative thing, a positive experience in our life, something that has meaning and purpose to us and gives us a reason to get up every day, a reason to move forward every day, a reason to help other people every day. We're flipping this on its other side axis. And that's what I think is just so beautiful about what came out of this book.
Yeah. And like we talked the other day, Chris, it's not about what happened to us. How has this happened for us? What can we learn from it? What can we take out of it? What can we pull into the rest of our lives? And what can we just let go of to be able to be healthy, happy, whole, and feel love and joy again?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something, Russ and I have talked about too in past times we've connected is, these experiences are very much happening for us. They're not happening to us. And when we're able to get out of that victim mindset, which takes time, I can't say if it's going to happen in a week or a month or a year or 5 years. I can't say that. It's a personal journey for you. But I will say when you make that shift from to me to for me, that's when your healing starts. And that's when you have a beautiful release of things. Russ, I want to include you on that conversation, my friend. What do you think about that concept, and how has that evolved for you as you've gone through this process of writing your chapter in the book?
When I sat down to write, we had talked about a completely different topic than what I wrote.
We did.
I mean, I've got my education and training is in somatics, narcissistic abuse, things like that. So we were going to approach it as, how do you grieve the loss of a narcissistic partner, which was completely, and I don't know, Teresa, if you've read the chapter that I wrote or not, but very different. I ended up writing about my father, and my father was a narcissist, and my father was incredibly abusive. And the concept of trying to grieve a man that it was that violent and that did that much harm is hard, right? But when I started kind of thinking about it, I realized that it did happen, just not the way that most people anticipated happening. So actually writing that down and putting all those thoughts together and trying, because it was a healing in and of itself. It was stuff that I hadn't thought of. It's stuff that I hadn't processed. So just writing the chapter helped me heal along the journey, along the way.
I thought that was something so healing and cathartic, I think is the word I'm looking for, when you and I initially talked about what you were going to write about. And then I saw this total different chapter. And I remember you telling me at one point, I think it was probably 3 months ago now, I remember, it was a little ways back. You said, I thought I was going to go this direction with it, but my healing's actually over here. This is the thing that I haven't paid attention to enough. And I haven't allowed myself space to really dive into this. And
absolutely. Yeah.
I thought that was just, that's an example of what came out of this project. We all kind of thought it was this direction, and we ended up over here. Given ourselves.
Yeah, I don't know how many other people had the same experience where they started going one direction and just got led another way, but it was very synaptic, kind of, like I didn't have a lot of control over it. It just kind of grew on its own into what it was.
So that tells me, Russell, you surrendered to the healing
100%.
completely. Yeah. And that's what you get when you write from the soul and your unconscious mind. It knows what to bring up. It knows what you need to heal, what you need to grow with. And it's such a beautiful thing when that happens. Like, congratulations. And I'm going to read all of them. It's on my list.
Yeah.
Teresa, what I love is that Russell and I are the only two men in this project. Funny story.
I noticed.
I didn't intend that on coincidence or anything like that, but I was very grateful he joined for this big, big reason. And I want to make sure the world knows this, by the way. My friend Russ has gone through a lot of trauma in his life, and you guys will find out when you read his story. And what I love about my friend Russ is the following. This is a man who's okay being emotional. He's okay being vulnerable. He's okay to say, I've been through trauma. I've been through loss, and it hurts, and it's hard to get through. And what he has done to help other men get out of this strong guy, tough guy, suck it up, be a man thing, he has shown men it's okay to have emotion. He's a prime example of what I wish more men would learn how to do. And he has set a great example in this book with his story to help other men learn how to be open with their emotions, be vulnerable, and learn that trauma doesn't mean bottling it up and sucking it into yourself and holding it in for decades of your life and being, taking that out in bad ways. He's taught people how to work through trauma. He's helped me with that. And so I'm proud to call him a friend, but he's done some beautiful work for men that need a voice to say it's okay to feel. I mean, it's a big, big gift. I didn't want to call you out that bad, Russ, but I just want to say, man, big gift. Big gift.
Thank you, man. It's an honor to hear it. I appreciate it.
But that does need to be said, though, because men do experience this just as much as women do. And men are statistically known to bottle it in and hold it in. And that's exactly what I did for decades. And all it does is make you sick.
100%.
And it's not something that you did to yourself. It's something that was created and happened to you. But
yeah, it happened.
It
happened to you, but you're the only one that has any control over it going forward. So that's the part that's hard. It's like, it's like beating a dog and then expecting them not to be angry.
Yeah. But you're showing men that, both of you are showing men that they have things too. We all do. And to just speak about it is the first step. And then writing it is so cathartic. It gets it out of your body physically.
And living this stuff. And I've got a couple listeners. I'm not sure who they are because all it shows me is a number, but a good friend of mine comes to me regularly like, man, I really respect what you're doing and I'm feeling it. And over the last couple of months, I've gotten calls randomly from guys like, Russ, I've been watching you for like 2 years. I know we haven't talked in 15 years, but here's my entire life story, So it's getting out there in front of guys and showing that vulnerability is strength is basically the mission.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Russ, I appreciate you, my man. And, Teresa, coming back to one of the questions you asked about, maybe Russ touched on this too, about how this really changed people. I'm going to introduce you guys to Gina. She's another author in this chapter. And Gina and I connected on podcasting earlier this year. Gina has a beautiful story. I'm going to let her speak to it since she's jumped on here. But what I thought she was going to write her chapter about turned into actually something different. And it was actually from what I've heard, very healing experience and opened up some conversations with her and her family that were never really had for many, many years. And I think that that's a prime example of how this book brought a lot of healing out and a lot of grief that needed resolution. Gina, I wanted to welcome you on here.
Thank you, Chris. It's good to talk to you again. Nice to meet everybody.
Likewise. Hopefully it's a good day over there in Montana.
Yeah, it's nice and rainy.
Well, tell everybody just a quick synopsis about your chapter and what that experience was like writing that chapter out the way you did.
Yeah, like you mentioned, this story that I ended up writing was not the one that I had intended, but it was the one that God kept nudging me to write about. And what I thought he meant for me to initially write about just for myself on my own personal healing journey, he intended for me to share so that both my family and I can heal and I can help others heal as well. So it was the initial traumatic experience of my life that I had never talked about publicly before. I had just had a conversation with my dad about 2 years ago, even letting him know that I remembered the events of that situation. So it was still very new and raw, kind of on the healing process spectrum, right? And so walking through that, as we all know, when you're writing through these things, you have to relive them to some degree. And, I knew very early on that I was meant to share this story. And it was uncomfortable for some in my family for me to share it initially within good understanding. And at the end of the day, I guess you could say they understood that it was something that I was meant to move forward with, that I was the safe space to tell this story. And I was saying this is going to make me cry. I was told to move forward and make them proud like I always do. And that meant everything to me because they knew that I was simply sharing what had happened from my 8-year-old perspective.
That's really beautiful, Gina. And I got that vibe when I read your chapter. I saw you went through a very traumatic moment of life that in very many ways, and you guys will see this in the chapter, that situation could have gone a lot worse that day. It could have been a very pivotal life change and not in a good way. But to know that I didn't even know you had went through that, by the way, when you wrote your chapter, because we never really talked about it. You talked a lot about other things. I'll let you share if you're comfortable with it. I just want to protect your anonymity on that one. But I just want to say that you shared a part of your story with me that I myself got very choked up when I heard it. And I couldn't believe the amount of strength you have had through your whole life, because you challenged that since you were very, very young. And it was so empowering when I saw you write your chapter. It kind of took me out of left field a little bit, because I went, wow, she went through everything she told me, but now there's this on top of it. And I said, here's this resilient woman that's survived, and not only survived, she's thrived. And, not a lot of you guys know, by the way, Gina helps teenage girls going through similar situations in life. She helps and pays it forward because of what she's experienced in her life. And I just think you're a beautiful person, Gina. You have a very, very big heart, and I'm glad to see that you're a prime example of what it means to have an empowered grief journey. It doesn't mean the pain goes away. It doesn't mean we get over it and we move on. It doesn't mean those things, but it means that we find purpose and meaning through the loss we go through, the grief we experience. And your chapter did a beautiful job of resonating what it was like to go through a very traumatic time that could have been very much worse. And, being able to go through this project and just have that conversation with your father. I remember you writing that in your chapter, and I was going, wow, like, to have that conversation for once, that must have been, share that with me. That must have been very much of a relief for you in many ways, and in some ways closure.
Oh, absolutely. To be given that open door just kind of out of the blue was a true God-given moment, is the only way I can explain it, because there is no way that he could have known that that was weighing so heavy on me in that moment, and that I was already struggling with, do I pursue having this conversation with him at this time? Because it's not like we were at a point in our lives where we were seeing each other all the time. And so it lifted this huge weight off my shoulders, having that conversation in that moment. And, it also gave me the opportunity to remind him that, it's okay, like you guys were talking about, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to let yourself feel the emotions behind those experiences, because you too still need to heal from this. So don't be ashamed of that.
Well, I have to ask you a powerful question right now, because I can see that this book
Yeah.
has given you a big opportunity for healing. I can just see it. When you look back at yourself before you joined this project, and to have written this chapter, to have had the opportunity to have these conversations, when you look back at where you've come, what's the biggest change you've seen in yourself? And what's, have you gotten that thing you were always looking for at a certain point in life? Did it come through this project?
If I think the number one thing that it showed me is it just re-solidified the true level of strength that I have within myself. You had touched on, I've been through a number of different situations in life that could have derailed me and truly broken me to the point of me wanting to take my own life, which I had tried multiple times in my younger years. But at the end of the day, God always intervenes because he had a much larger purpose for me. And all of those things led me to this moment right here. And so it just opened my eyes even more so to how grand of a scheme of things really are. I don't hold resentment or bitterness or anything about anything that's ever happened to me in my past. I can't, because of where it's led me to. I'm at such a place of peace right now with
Absolutely beautiful.
where I am.
I love that for you, Gina, and I'm really glad that this project helped you in many ways get to that place. That's a beautiful outcome of things. Um,
Yeah.
I appreciate you jumping on today. For you guys just joining us, Sadie and Shalem just jumped on. I'm trying to give everybody about 5 minutes or so to share their stories so you guys can hear from different authors in the book. Sadie, you're still down in Mexico, right? Yeah. Why don't you share with us a little bit about your chapter with us?
Yeah, it was interesting. I didn't going to write, and of course, ended up being the same thing that's a topic for so much of my life, which was adoption. And first of all, I'm going to apologize. I might lose you again. The internet's a little strange here. Yeah. So
No worries.
thanks. I'm out in the lobby. We just moved hotels, and they haven't gotten me into my room yet. So I'm just out here. It's a little loud, but you got to do what you got to do. So yeah, I just found myself once again, speaking to the my adoption grief, the grief around being put up for adoption at birth and losing my mother. And it's funny because I always say losing my mother. I don't really think about my father, which is its own journey in itself, and something I still. I don't know. It's so weird, our journeys, right? I don't know why the father hasn't been quite the same sense of loss. I mean, certainly it has been, but my mother, pain that's been with me my entire life, and just been very confusing in the beginning. The first half of my life was just like, what was I wanted? Why did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? And it was very much that victim consciousness, what you were talking about, and no tools or no understanding, and didn't even know that it was grief, right? That was part of the journey, was learning that my education and having lost, the death of my grandmother, and then a friend in a head-on car accident, and then a woman who committed suicide, or died by suicide is the terminology. That all happened in a few short months. So that changed my path from what I was doing. And I got really into grief and bereavement, and really understanding just how we don't do grief very well in this society. And there was it was 3 very different types of grief that I experienced in a really short period. So it just opened me up to the richness and the spirituality of it, and the pain of it, and the different ways. Like that last grief, I didn't know the woman very well that died by suicide. So, but it affected me deeply, and I didn't know who to talk to about it, because who was I to be grieving this person? Who was I to be affected when these other people around her were clearly very affected and knew her, and they were, friends and family and loved ones. So that was very confusing for me. That my grandmother is expected. She had strokes. She'd been declining for a long time. When she finally died, I was like, good, I'm so glad you're out of your body now. It was a very different type of grieving, and because the grief was so long, that was more of a relief. And then my friend with the head-on collision, I had just seen him the night before, and the next day he was gone, and that one tore a hole through my soul like nothing. But it was also the most spiritually transformative experience possibly in my life. I mean, it was huge. But all of those 3 griefs in such a short period, I was like, whoa, just so much to deal with. And I just got fascinated by it, and the death and dying process. So really got involved, switched my schooling, and started getting into social work so I could be a hospice social worker. And then getting into taking that further with Anthology, the study of death and dying. And through that educational piece, I started understanding my own journey that had been one of grief. My whole life had been a huge grieving process that I just couldn't understand up until that point. And then everything fell into place and started making sense. And that's when I started getting really interested in the non-death loss that so many of us experience, right? That the ending of relationships, mobility or health, adoption, losing somebody in a war when you don't know if they're dead or not. I mean, so many different types of grief. And I just, so anyways, understanding it and then finding meaning in it and moving out of the victim consciousness and understanding that I feel like I came here to have that deep understanding of grief and go so deep into it so that I could use that as a superpower to support others through their process and have deep compassion and empathy for this human journey, which is one of loss. Not the only thing it is. Of course, there's many beautiful aspects, but the grief and the death is a beautiful aspect. But it's, how do we work with it? How do we deal with it? How do we embrace it and step into it and find the beauty in it, find the nuggets, find the meaning? How does it help us grow? How does it give us purpose? How does it shape our lives? And I said something earlier on a post I made on Facebook today that the extent to which you grieve is conducive to the extent to which you love. So it's a real, what's the word I'm looking for? A tribute to how much we love each other and love different aspects of our life, that the pain is so strong when we lose them. So it's a beauty that we have those relationships and we have those things that we love so dearly. So it's a journey for sure, right?
It's a big journey, and
Yeah.
I loved your chapter when I read it because I've never done a ayahuasca therapy before. I haven't done it.
Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca, yeah. I have a hard time pronouncing that for some reason.
Okay.
No, I've heard people go through it a lot, and I've heard some people have very turbulent experiences with that. I've also heard people have very healing and cathartic experiences with it, and I loved, that's one thing I loved about reading your chapters. You talked about that plant medicine as a mother. And what I found about your topic, especially about adoption, is that I interviewed people on my podcast before you who talked about adoption grief, just like you went through. And I had never really thought about it. My mom's adopted, by the way, and she doesn't know anything about her her biological mom or father. And I realized that there is a grief there. It's really like, who are my actual parents and why didn't they want me? Why am I on this alone adventure? I never realized how many questions and grief that actually come up until I spoke to people like you who have walked that path of life. And I found it very eye-opening for me in many ways. And what I loved about your chapter, where I'm going with this, is you went on a big self-discovery of redefining who is Sadie. And I think despite all the challenges you've gone through and you've shared them with me in podcasting, but you become this beautiful person again because of those experiences happening for you, not to you. And you demonstrated that so well in your chapter. It's I'm just gonna say, you guys, when you do read Sadie's chapter, it'll pull you in a lot because there's a lot of depth in there in places, because a lot of us, some of us haven't been adopted before, and to see that other side of life, that other perspective of what that's like, and understanding that core need to know who we are and what our background is and why things happen the way they do. You gave a beautiful place for people to find solace in your chapter.
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel like a really important piece of this is the term I learned in my education was the disenfranchised grief. And it's one of those griefs that people just don't understand, don't appreciate, don't recognize, because it was always like, oh, yeah, you got adopted, you got a family that wanted you. They never understood the other side of it. It was all just kind of this positive thing. So, and, there's a lot of griefs that just really go misunderstood or not acknowledged, and that was a piece of this chapter for me, is to bring attention to those various types of griefs that we might not even recognize, right, because it's not supported in society so much. So that's a big piece. So thank you. This has been just an amazing amazing journey.
Well, Sadie, I just want to say a big thank you to you for being part of this book, being part of sharing your story in here, because I can tell you right now, there's many people that have walked your path and you've stood where they are right now. And I say that a lot, but you have a true power to help people. And I'm really grateful to see you out there in the world doing that. So thank you so much today for sharing a little bit about your chapter and about yourself. I'm very grateful you're part of this project.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And I want to invite you guys to another author who jumped on here. She's a wonderful gal out of Arkansas, and she also was a local PNW native like me. And her name is Shalene Dazan, and her chapter is a return to that high mountain in the book. And Shalene went through multiple losses in a very short period of time, and I'm going to let her share her story. But I shared a lot with her about PNW and mountain biking, and I'm going to share with you guys, we're very lucky to hear from her today, by the way, because girl was out there mountain biking yesterday and broke her wrist in 2 places. So I'm very honored and very grateful she's on today. And Shalene, I just want to say thank you for joining us.
You're welcome, Chris. It's always a pleasure. I'm glad to be here too. I broke my right wrist doing an enduro pre-ride on Friday. So sorry if I'm a little subdued. Pain has a way of humbling us all, but I'm just so grateful to be part of this book. It's been incredible reading everybody's stories. The writing quality is just, it's off the charts. It's really blown me away. And, I will go into my story, but one thing I've so appreciated about reading other people's chapters, some of the people that maybe only focused on one really hard grief, and one really hard grief is all any of us need in life. We don't need more than that they were able to really capture with a depth what that experience was like. And I feel like everybody can find something that feels familiar for themselves as they journey through life, or if they haven't personally had one of those pull the rug out from underneath you, drop you to your knees kind of griefs, then they're lucky. But they don't then understand maybe what some other people are going through that are around them that have had those kinds of griefs. And I really appreciate that this book is shedding light on that. And I'm so grateful to be part of the conversation. My grief story, I think, I kind of catalog a lot of catastrophic bereavement events that happened in my life. And it started with my husband dying of cancer. When I was 45 years old, I became a widow, and he died at home in our bed on a cold day in January with the biggest snowstorm in the history of Portland. The snow coming in through the window in the back, and the sliding door in our bedroom. And we had been married for just a year when we had the worst oncology appointment anybody really, I think, can have, which is 0% chance of survival and absolutely zero treatment opportunities that they could offer. So that was one day after our 1 year wedding anniversary that we had that oncology appointment. But I think we both knew a lot of dread in our hearts because we'd seen the CT scans and realized he had been a survivor of childhood cancer. And so he had more zest for life than anybody I've ever met. He knew that not one day was to be taken for granted. He'd survived Hodgkin's lymphoma in 8th grade, and then again 11th grade when he was a kid. And so it was 30 years later, it was the chemo and radiation that he'd gotten back then that caused the cancer that killed him. And he really didn't want to die, and I really didn't want him to die. And that was really hard. When he died, my world just shattered. And that was that's when that light bulb goes on and you say, this is the depth of the human experience of grief, and my dog really pulled me through. At the time, people were saying, like, thank God you've got Digby, because we didn't have any kids. And, and I thought, you've got to be kidding. I've got my dog, my husband just died, but But, you know, fast forward in my life, I could look back and say, thank God I had Digby. He really gave me a reason to engage with life in a meaningful way, which is one of the things we have to do as we come through grief. He gave me something to care about, and got me outside in the backyard. And nature has always been a sanctuary for me. And spent a lot of time, you know, in the rain. And we lived in Oregon at the time, so spent a lot of time in our just suburban backyard. But we had a lot of trees, and you know, eventually I started to move through from that place of just the shattering where you can't stop crying. You just didn't even realize that a human could cry that much, to beginning to see beauty in like little things, like the way the sunlight would reflect off a dewdrop or a raindrop coming off the pine tree, or the way it would catch, the wind would catch a wind chime or something. And, you know, my mind began to open up to beauty, because it is in like little things, like the way the sunlight would reflect off a, it's a heightened state, I think, of awareness that you're in when you're in these very intense grief experiences. So uh, the following year, the following May, after my husband died, I took a trip up to this place called Illumination Rock, and that was his deathbed wish, was that I would scatter his ashes up at this high mountain place. We were backcountry skiers, and it's you know, it's a journey, it's a trek to get there. You put your skis on your back. It's too steep to skin into, even though, you know, we had skins for our skis. You hike up the climbers route up to Mount Hood, and then when you get to the part where you would have to uh, rope in with other people and have crampons and an ice axe, you put your skis on and you traverse over to this beautiful place called Illumination Rock. And he said, you know, he wanted his ashes scattered there, and then when our dog Digby died, to scatter Digby's ashes there too. So that gave me a sense of purpose. It gave me a reason to keep running, keep skiing, keep engaging in physical activities, because I knew I had this journey to take. And if any of you guys have ever scattered ashes, you know, it can be hard. That urn started from the bedroom and it moved to the living room and eventually was in the garden. And I would look at it and I'd say, one of these days, I'm going to bring you up to Illumination Rock. And it was the Monday of Memorial Day weekend. And then a few months later, in that summer, my best friend got a brain virus, and she died within 6 weeks. And one of the things I so appreciate you guys write about in your chapters is, many of us, I think, go through as grievers that we lose our friends. Like, they don't know how to deal with us. We're in just this intense experience, and it makes them awkward and uncomfortable, that we can't feel better sooner. And Bevan was the one friend that became a better friend after my husband Brad died. She said, "You do grief your way. Like, you do you. I love you." And so it was so shocking, and it felt so strangely personal to have her you know, contract this brain virus and die. And I was there with her the day we realized that she'd lost her equilibrium and wasn't walking normally. I was there with her in the emergency room and in the hospital, and her death was devastating to me. And then life went on, you know, and I started writing a lot of poetry during my grief journey. I wrote my first grief poem the night my husband died. And, you know, I wrote through these experiences of scattering his ashes. Strangely, I didn't write about Bevan dying. But then fast forward in life, I wound up moving to halfway across the country to Arkansas, and God bless my dog. Digby just, he carried forward with me for 6 years, and died 2 days shy of the day that my husband died. And just like my husband, he died in his bed in my arms with the cold January air coming through our door. And that was the most alone that I've ever felt in my life. And I thought that I had done a deep dive into solitude, but I realized the day that my dog died that you're never alone when you're with a dog. And I think I would have gone into a really deep place of depression, but I knew that I was going to have to take this trip back up to Illumination Rock, which, you know, I was going to have to get my hiking legs on, my mountaineering legs on, and my ski legs back on. And so about 3 weeks after Digby died, I booked a couple of ski trips and started to wrap my mind around this journey I was going to need to take back up to the really sacred place where I'd scattered my husband's ashes. And on one of those ski trips, I wound up meeting Bentley. and we fell in love. And it felt like a marked day. From the day I met my husband to the day he died in my arms was 6 years, 3 months, and 1 day. And exactly 6 years, 3 months, and 1 day after the day that Brad died, I met Bentley. And it felt like God had a great plan for me. After all of this grief, there was love and laughter and joy and companionship. And he was tall and handsome and had a hero's heart and a Boy Scout's sense of honor. And he was an Iron Man. He was fit. God had a great plan for me after all of this grief. And he did. We drove across the country. And the sad truth of it is that he had a blocked artery in his heart that we didn't know about. And he had a heart attack, and he died in my arms up there on the mountain facing Illumination Rock. And I couldn't believe that my life was to be defined by so much grief. I could write a whole book about my experience that day. As you can only imagine, we were high in a mountain and he was dead.
Well, Shalene, that was a beautiful chapter that you wrote, my friend. I remember reading through that, and we're both outdoors people. We climb mountains and everything like that. And I couldn't imagine being up in high altitude like that, because what a lot of people don't know is when Shalene went through that loss with Bentley, you're lucky to have cell service if you even have it. And if you don't have it, help is miles away. It's not going to be something that's going to be resolved quickly for you. And something that Shalene shared on our podcast, minicast this week, is that she was able to call and talk to her mom that day up on the mountain. And it's a day that both of them grieve still, and both of them hold space very dearly for that moment. But Shalene, I just want to say, reading your chapter, to see somebody else who's gone through compound loss, I've certainly gone through it on my end of things, just in a different way. But compound losses are very deep, and they resonate with us on a much more profound level. But to see what you did, by the way, with writing your book, Illuminations, and I want to say thank you for sending me a copy of that. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. But to know that you took all of those writings together to create a book of poetry to help other people through grief and honor that place of Illumination Rock. I really don't know why, but I feel like you were called to that place in many, many ways with the most important people of your life. And so I'm just honored to see how you honor and remember Bentley, Brad, and Digby. And I just want to say Digby feels like
and what
the book.
Oh,
Yeah.
Digby, so he was God. Yeah, I still grieve him. And one of my signature sayings that, came out of all of my writing and my experience of grief, and I think you guys can relate to this, is that perhaps after all, a broken heart is like a broken mirror with more places to reflect the light. And I really see that in this book. Each of us is a broken mirror, and we're all reflecting our light out there to the world in such an incredible way. I'm just grateful to be part of it.
Well, Shalene, I just wanted to say thank you for jumping on today and giving our listeners a little bit more background into yourself and why you wrote your chapter and what it's about. It's definitely a powerful chapter in this book to share how compound losses can affect us, but also at the same place, giving us so much hope and so much inspiration to move forward by honoring their legacy. And I just want to say, I know you probably can't go biking anytime in the near future while that's healing, but I hope you get back out there.
Hey, Chris, we got a couple things from the chat that might be interesting.
Oh, please shoot.
Yeah, we've got Lisa Woolry said, Sadie, my kids were adopted, and I've always wanted to be able to understand more of what they feel, which is pretty interesting. Looks like Sadie's already responded to her in the chat, but another way that the book could connect to somebody, right?
This is exactly what the power of this book is. I didn't even know that about Lisa's children at all. I didn't even know that, but to know that she's read Sadie's chapter and that connection we're finding through the book is exactly the power within our stories.
Yep.
Yeah. Sadie, did you want to say something real quick about that? Oh, sorry, I can take you off the mute. 1 second.
It's okay. Yes, absolutely. That was just so touching to see that message and that comment there. And yeah, I would be just thrilled to connect with anybody to talk about that if desired. I'd be happy to lend some insight and wisdom and connect further, because it's a deep one, and it's yeah. So I'm just very touched by that. So thank you, Lisa.
Cindy, I've got a good friend. I think I'm going to connect them with you.
Wonderful. Yes, please do. Yeah, it's a challenging grief, and yeah, I would be more than happy to share, to just bring some greater peace and ease to anybody walking that adoption journey on both sides. So yeah, thank you.
And then just a real quick reminder for both people on Chris's feed or on my feed, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, or wherever you're at, if you guys just put questions in the chat, or if you have comments in the chat, if it's something that I see a value to ask the group here, we'll ask the group and we'll answer it for you live. So feel free to interact. It's the whole idea here. So
yeah. And so for you guys tuning in now, I just want to let you guys know I got 3 more authors that have jumped on. Jill McLennan, Tanya Bonner. She's joining us from Australia, halfway across the world in the future. I also got Lisa Woolry jumping on. So I'm going to give each of these 3 beautiful authors some space to share with us a little bit about themselves and their chapters. And Jill, I'm going to start with you because you've been waiting about 10 minutes or so. Didn't mean to keep you waiting, but I just want to say to you, I'm glad we ended the book with your chapter on 23. Your story about your grandmother resonated with me in a lot of ways, because I lost my great grandmother that I was very, very close to in 8th grade, and nobody held space for me to explain what death and dying was about. And that's a hard loss for me, and going through my other grandmother I lost when I was a little bit older, same situation. So I want to turn it over to you to share with us a little bit about your chapter and a little bit about your experience.
Sure. Thank you for having me. And I do love hearing everybody talk about their chapters, because there is so much grief that is not honored in our society. So it's nice to hear that we touch on a variety of different topics and different losses. You know, in some ways, mine feels kind of boring in the sense of that, you know, this is the natural order of things. Our grandparents should die before we die. But it's still a major loss for a lot of us, especially people that were raised in a household where a grandparent kind of stepped in as a parent. And that was one of the things that I actually struggled a little bit with, was when I lost my grandmother and when I first, you know, began the grieving process, there was a little voice in my head that was almost like shaming myself, of like, you shouldn't be so upset about it. It's just like your grandmother, like she's supposed to die before you are. And so I went through that whole process internally. And, you know, it set me down my path to work with people at the end of life, and, you know, work with them around death and dying and also grief. And so being able to revisit my old blogs that I wrote during the process of my grandmother dying was really important. I think for me, I had kind of avoided reading them for many years. I think because some of it was really challenging and was really painful. But I was able to see a lot of the beauty in the story and see how far I've come and how much I've grown, and that if it wasn't for that experience, I would not be on the path that I am today. And so it was beautiful. I was really happy to be part of this book. I've loved getting to know, you know, the other authors at least a little bit. I'm sure, you know, hopefully over the next few years, we can all stay connected with each other and get to know each other a little bit better. But it's just such a beautiful book. And I know that it's going to help a lot of people. And I kind of like that I'm the last chapter. I don't know. It feels like a nice thing for me to be like the ending chapter, to kind of wrap things up for everybody. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel like it was a great way to, I don't know if conclude's the right word, but it was a powerful way to end the book. And it really, there's so much emotional depth in your chapter. There's just this special connection and bond you have with your grandmother. And when we record podcasting, or I get the chance to hear from you about it, it's such a beautiful relationship. And it's such a testament to when we do go through grief and loss and we lose somebody that's that close to us, just how hard of a loss that really is. But at the same time, you know, we find ourselves remembering them and honoring them through what we do in our life. Or we even, I know you shared moments in the mini podcast of saying, you know, if my grandma was here today, this is what she would probably say to me, or she'd probably think about me. And I just think that's such a beautiful testament to the love and the bond that you had with your grandmother.
Well, thank you. And yes, she definitely would be very proud of me. And she also would be a little annoyed with me that I wrote about her because she just kind of didn't think that she was that big of a deal. So she would be annoyed that I was making a big deal out of her. But that's part of what I loved so much about her, was she was just kind and giving and wonderful and shaped so many lives, not just my own. And so it feels nice to honor that for her and honor our relationship, and hopefully give other people permission to grieve all of their losses, including the ones that other people might tell you is not as big of a deal as something else, which unfortunately we do in our society.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty, that's inside this book, is exactly that, I'm glad you brought that up, that we shouldn't compare losses, where I'm going with that. Everybody's loss is very individual and specific to them. And more importantly, we don't get to walk everybody's walk of life. We don't get to experience the world the way anybody else does. And so, when I thought about writing this book, that's what I love the most about it, is there's 23 different perspectives. There's 23 different kinds of loss. There's 23 different meanings and purpose and love and connection and kindness is found through these stories. And that's where I think the true power of this book is our collaborative environment, the community we've built, to show people that there is no right way, wrong way, perfect way. That doesn't exist. But it's in the stories that we wrote that there's one or two things in there we resonate with, and that really can help a reader connect and discover their own path. So I just want to say thank you for contributing to that. And it was very powerful. So if Grandma's looking down right now, sorry, Grandma, you're in the spotlight. We appreciate you. So let me see here. Tian, you've been on, you're over in Australia. I think it's Monday, probably 9:00 in the morning?
Good morning, everyone. It's Monday and it's 8:00 in the morning. So thankfully my kids, I think, have slept in a little bit this morning. So it's taken the heat off a bit, which is awesome. But look, I'm sitting back here just filled with so much gratitude and empathy with all the other writers that have contributed to this really heartfelt project. It's been a beautiful experience to be able to honour the legacy of our loved ones and also ourselves in this journey. I came to meet Chris nearly a year ago, and he's really walked alongside me in my grief journey. And in the book, I certainly encapsulate the loss that I experienced with my late partner, Troy, and how that loss really brought me to my knees. And therefore, I really had to try and find myself again and decide what paints I wanted to put on my canvas, because it was about starting again from scratch. So it's been a really heartfelt project, and one that I'm so honoured to be able to give the voice of grief as well. I was always taught and I was conditioned to, if we experience loss in our life, we sweep it under the rug and we move on and we get over that and life continues. However, and I pressed pause and I thought I needed to lean in my grief and really honour my own love shared with Troy, love in the way that I best knew how, and that was with whatever it took to try and come to this place today. And writing the book and contributing to the book has been a really big part of that.
Well, Tian, I just want to say, it's been an honor to have met you, because I realized it was a year ago that you and I first connected. Funny story. And I cannot believe it's been a year since that happened, by the way. We've done so much together, coaching and writing this book together. I know you shared a lot about Troy and writing the chapter, and I just say he's a beautiful guy that gave you a powerful gift. And I like to say, as many of you guys know, when I started coaching, that I went into this place of calling these experiences of life a gift in shitty wrapping paper. That's what I called it. And the reason I did is that we don't want it. It doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. We're just going, I don't want this. I don't even know why this is here. But when we're able to see and peel back that bad wrapping paper and we look what's underneath it, Troy gave you a powerful, powerful gift through his loss. And I love that, you've gone through a lot of hardship too, medically, and you've gone through this big change. I want to share this with everybody. Tan's about to reach 1,500 days straight of working out. This is something that's come out of her grief journey. And that's just incredible, my friend. I mean, you're you're somebody to look up to. You're somebody that motivates me a lot because I've never tried a record like that before. But you honor him so much by taking care of his kids, helping them have a good life, and taking care of yourself and honoring your grief. I mean, you're a beautiful person because of the gift that Troy gave you.
Yeah, I really realized throughout this journey, I think it just really solidified for me how important love, kindness, connection, and showing up for both yourself and others really is the key in honoring yourself and moving forward. And I've really tried to hold on to those values throughout this grief journey, and to be able to reach back to others and pay kindness forward as well. It's been such a pivotal part of my journey, and something I'm so grateful that I've realised through such a horrific circumstance of loss, really.
Well, I loved your story about staying connected with the police officer that helped you through that moment, and he stayed in touch with you even after the accident happened. And to see that, I've heard from your story, there's just so many people in your life that came to you in that moment and were there for you, even in the worst of the moments. They were there for you, and they've remained friends. They've been supportive and kind to you, and I think that it's just a lovely way to see you always paying that forward. And I love, by the way, I love our friendship because you're always pushing me. You're always getting me out of my shell all the time, saying, hey, it's okay if I ask for help. It's okay. I'm sitting here. Like, utilize me. I'm a resource. So you've been helping me in ways I haven't really communicated until now. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Oh, it's an honor, Chris. I'm a big person. I believe so much in cheering someone else on. And as you mentioned before, it's not about comparisons. We've all got our own unique journey, and it truly is about cheering other people on. And even with this book project, I am so excited to be able to get my hands on a copy of the book, because I am going to give that to the police officer involved. I'm going to pay it forward with everyone that has helped me throughout this journey, whether that be counsellors, friends, family, strangers, whoever I've come in contact with. This is going to be my gift that I'm able to give back to them, to be able to help other people. And I really can't wait to do that, because that is, for me, is such an important part of this journey, is to pay my chapter forward and give it as a gift to other people. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, we'll get those author copies going here quick. So I'm just, Tan, thank you so much for jumping on today and sharing with us a little bit about yourself and your chapter. You guys are going to love reading that chapter in this book. It's very powerful. I've got two other authors here I want to give some space to. Lisa, welcome on here. Lisa shares a powerful story in her book about losing her husband suddenly. And what I love about Lisa, by the way, is she is called herself The Widow's Comeback. And I love that. So I'd love for you to share with us a little bit about your chapter and your experience, and tell us what that comeback means.
Yes. Well, thanks. I'm so happy to be here and see everyone and learn a little bit more. I have not read the book yet because I only read print. I'm old fashioned, but I can't wait. I can't wait to just really learn and reflect and feel all of your stories. Also, apologies. The Chiefs are on 1 minute and they're 3 behind. So I'm a little bit of a football fanatic. Yes. So I lost my husband of 28 years. We met when I was 14. Just suddenly I was actually chopping broccoli, making dinner, and I found him in his office, and I unsuccessfully gave him CPR. And I was left behind with my 2 tweens. And as you all know, it was so shocking and surprising. And it took me a little while to get on my feet again. And I did. And then I felt like a real tugging at my heart from God to be in service to widows. So I have a ministry now called The Widow's Comeback. And where I have like books and resources and other things. But it was just so important to me to make my experience a comeback instead of like a life ending kind of thing. And so that's what I've been working on for 6 years. And writing this chapter was really good for me. I write about being a widow every day, if not nowhere else than on the Widows Come Back Facebook page. But it just really allowed me to sit down and reflect on where I've come from the day after my husband died, when I literally said to myself, oh, my life is over, to where I am now, where I'm living a really good life and I'm healing every day. My kids are healing every day. And so that's what this book meant to me, is just really being able to reflect on that and just to be really proud of myself.
Well, Lisa, I can just say, it's what you went through in your loss in particular. It's something that shocks and comes out of nowhere, and there's really no way to be prepared for that. There's no way to say, okay, I can handle this. It just comes out of nowhere, left field, and to see your resiliency that you talked about in our podcast many months ago, but also through the book. This doesn't have to be the end. There is a new beginning here. And our mini podcast we talked about a little bit earlier this week, and you guys can check that out on my page. Lisa made a good point that, 6 years ago she couldn't say this, but today she can, that Eric has given her such a big blessing and a gift through this whole thing. And for her to be able to hold space for widows that go through the same loss in life and make sure that they're not stuck, they're not being held back by grief in a lot of ways, but letting them know that they can continue to move forward in life through honoring and celebrating them. One thing that Lisa brought up that I thought was really powerful in the podcast is she went for a hike in her grieving process, and she shouted in the middle of this hiking trail, "My husband died," and most people ignored her, which was mind blowing to me, because I was like, hello, somebody went through some trauma here. We need some attention. And
Nobody knew what to do with that.
Yeah. I know it's uncomfortable, but at the same time, I'm like, I wouldn't just stand there and say nothing. And that's kind of weird. But at least I had one person actually see her in that moment and guide her in that step. And she talks a lot about just talking about the vulnerability of talking about breaking down in Target and crying, which I think is so normal in those moments. It's not something to be uncomfortable or weird about or awkward. That's a normal part of grief. And I love that she has the courage to allow other people through her own demonstration of that to say, it's okay. You're fine to be where you're at right now. You don't need to be anything other than who you are in this moment. And so Lisa, I just want to say through the podcast and the chapter, thank you for giving people who go through loss, especially like yours, permission to be with their grief, permission to feel the way they need to feel, whether that's on a hiking trail or if that's in the middle of Target one night trying to buy some groceries, just to give them the permission to allow their grief space. It's a beautiful gift.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with these people and to help other people on their grief journey.
You're very welcome, Lisa.
Chris, just real quick reminder for all the people listening is we do have that for how long for free for the Kindle version for them to go and review it?
Yeah, so the Kindle version is going to be free through Wednesday, guys. So if you want to go check the book out, download a free Kindle copy, go to Amazon between now and Wednesday, and you can get your copy on there. If you guys have Kindle Unlimited, the book is free on that. Just want to put that out there for you guys. And also say, I would love to appreciate a review from you. If you do get a copy of this book, please honor all the authors you're meeting today. Everybody on this screen that you're looking at. You've gotten a big opportunity to look at people that wrote these chapters that are inside this book. You've gotten to learn their backstories, why they went through grief the way they did, what they learned from it, how they've discovered how to heal from it. It would mean the world to me to have you guys leave a review to make sure that they're seen and heard and give them some acknowledgement on their process. So Russ, thank you for reminding me about that, my friend.
Yeah, there's already some reviews on Amazon, and they're amazing. One says, a beautifully crafted and deeply compassionate anthology. This book transforms the way we understand grief, honoring it as a powerful teacher rather than something to hide or move past. So there's some really good stuff already on the reviews.
That's beautiful. Well, guys, as we start wrapping up here, I'm going to end with my last author. I'm supposed to actually done a mini podcast with her today, so I owe her a big apology for that one. So I'm going to make sure I find time in my week here to make that happen. I want to introduce you guys to Terry Ann Russell. She wrote a powerful chapter in this book about losing her son, Anthony. And it was through the loss of her son Anthony. She discovered a lot of spiritual gifts through that, and she found ways, by the way, to stay connected to him, even though he's not here in the physical world. And I had the pleasure of podcasting with her. She's a beautiful lady with a beautiful story, and she's opened my eyes spiritually in many ways since we connected. And so, Terry, thank you for being so patient and jumping on today. I truly appreciate you today. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Wow, it's been such a powerful journey, Chris. I would just want to thank you so much. I really didn't realize in the beginning how much it would unlayer for me again, and not even just about grief, but like where I did not set boundaries in life with people and where I became a people pleaser. And so everything changed for me in the instant that my son passed. But I love hearing about and reading about everyone's experiences. It has been one of the most profound experiences to be able to share this with so many beautiful people in so many different ways. And I think when you're going through grief, whether it's early or later in your process, so much changes for you. And a project like this, there's so much love and compassion, not only for each other, but for yourself that maybe you did not have before that comes out. I mean, for me, that was one of the truest, most valuable lessons that I learned on my process of just writing your chapter. And I'm an author and I've written books before and I've written about my connection with Anthony. So I want to say thank you again for just doing this and to having the courage to go forward and connect everybody and to bring us in this beautiful space.
I really appreciate that because I've seen so many of the authors in this group connect with each other in one way or the other, and to see so many good networking connections and so much just truth and healing and holding space for each other. And I feel like we really carved a space outside of society. We kind of pulled ourselves out and said, we're going to live in this space where we hold space for each other. We allow ourselves to be where we're going to be and meet each other where we're at. And I think that's a very big description for other people to learn that we can break free of societal influences and societal ideologies that require us to bury grief and move on. A lot of people I've talked to have discussed the mentality of having, 3 days to grieve. And I can't believe that, companies say, well, you can have 3 days if your child passes or your grandfather passes, whoever, but get back to work and life is normal. It's okay.
Yeah, life goes on and they sort of just want you to, people told me you have other children to think about. And I was like, well, which one of your children do you want to choose to live without? And then you come talk to me. I was pretty fresh in the beginning.
I can resonate with that. I completely understand where you're coming from. But I think that's the beauty of your chapter, though, is that you've shown people, how to meet them where they are in such a beautiful way. And you've also, I'm very spiritual. That's what I love about you as well, that just because our loved ones are not here in the physical world doesn't mean they're still not with us in one way or another. And to be able to look for signs out there, you shared that a lot in our podcast. I've never forgotten it, to always keep those eyes open and our ears listening, because those ones of ours that have passed are very close to us. And Anthony's still very close to you. I love your posts. I see them all the time.
He really is, and in the beginning, it's funny because it was so loud and I didn't want that. I didn't want that experience with him. This was my child. I would have much rather have him here in this life and not where he was. So within the 6 years, it's been this complete journey, this 360 of this really emotional roller coaster that has taught me that love never dies. He's always here with us. He's always sharing and celebrating. And even just yesterday at my daughter's 16th birthday, there was, he used to love the cartoon Courage the Cowardly Dog. And so there was a big print of Courage the Cowardly Dog when we walked into the art shop to do her pictures. So I was like, that was a little nod from him. It's not random that these things happen. I don't ask for them, but they are there. And it's sort of that nod to you that, yes, Mom, I'm here. I'm celebrating with you. And so I think when people start to realize that, there's so much that comes from believing that you're not alone and that love never dies.
I love that you said that, because I went to Home Goods the other night just for grab something quick, and I was in the checkout line and I zoned out for a minute while we were paying, and I saw this lion. It was kind of like that kind of thing with a big high thing going on. I went, whoa, it's like hi, and sat there. I was like, "Hi, Caden. You're really just making it loud today to say hi." So I love that you brought that up about Courage the Cowardly Dog. I love that show growing up as a kid. So, well, Terry, thank you so much for jumping on today. I will reconnect with you to do the mini podcast here in the next week or so we can find some time to make that happen. I want to thank all of you guys, all of you authors. I know some of you have jumped off today, but thank you so much for being a part of this book launch today. This has meant a lot to me to see so many of you guys come on here and celebrate all of the hard work that we have accomplished in 6 months. And I know that was not a lot of time to write a book, by the way, but I am so impressed with you guys because I had a vision for what this might have looked like. And I'll be honest, it went way above and beyond anything I could have ever thought about. And I just know that anybody that reads any of these chapters in this book, any 23 of them, you're going to get something to take away from your grief experience, your loss experience. You're going to find your path forward. And what I want you guys to know, by the way, because all these authors in this book did this extremely well, and you'll see that when you read the chapters, you will find your hidden gifts and lessons and blessings. You'll find them. They will show themselves to you when the time is right. And just like all these authors, including myself, do, go out there and pay it forward to those around you. Go out there and pay it forward. There's always going to be somebody in a place where you once stood. And you're going to remember, by the way, how scary, confusing, uncertain, how awful that feeling was. If you can be that one person to take this book and read it and find those gifts and go find those people to help them in that moment, you will be contributing to this world in ways way beyond anything you could ever imagine. So I just want to say with that, guys, go check out Amazon today. The book is Kindle version's free. You guys can order the paperback on there. If you guys do go to my website, empowergriefjourney.com, and want to buy the book directly from me, you can. I do author signed copies. I did come up with a few marketing things I can share with you guys. I took a picture of the front cover mountain that's on the book. Put a nice quote on that. So you guys can put that somewhere to keep you guys grounded on days where grief is really hard. I wanted to give you guys that. I also want to share, my wife came up with this bookmark, but this is our way of saying that Caden's going to give you guys courage as you guys read this book. You'll get courage from all the author chapters. I'm going to tell you that big time, but you guys can have a bookmark here to have some extra courage as you guys face grief, walk through it. I want to share too, a little bit about the book cover really quickly. You guys will see the mountain on there. This is a place called Lake Serene up in Washington. It's about 2,600 feet of elevation. And something that I didn't know when we went up there until I got back to the car halfway dead, 6 hours later, is that this trail had 23 switchbacks on it. And I had no intention for that, but I found that out when I got to the car.
Dude, it's never ending.
It's never ending. I don't get it. But when we went up to the mountains, a funny story real quick. When my grandfather died, there was a lone blue jay in the yard. I have no idea why, but it was the only bird in the yard that would come by. And so, long story short, that became his bird. When we got up to the lake to take the photo, the mountain was socked in full of clouds. You couldn't see anything. And I went, wow, I just hiked and darn near killed myself. Now I can't even get a shot for the book. Well, funny story, this blue jay kept hanging out on the left side of wherever we came up the trail. And we walked around a bunch for 40 minutes or so. And long story short, the clouds moved after an hour. They all moved out of the way and the mountain showed itself. And that's why you guys see the sun peeking over. You can't really see it because of the title here, but the sun came peeking up over the mountaintop. And where we took this photo is right where the blue jay was, up there. And so I couldn't help but think that somehow my grandfather had a say in what cover went on this book in some fashion. But this is, I was glad to end this call with Terry, by the way, because we're both super spiritual in the way of seeing signs. And I can't help but share with you guys, as you do navigate grief, look for signs. You'll see them. I've found dimes. I've found blue jays. I've found all sorts of these things that represent people I've lost. And 23, after I darn near killed myself going up that trail, was very funny in some ways. That, Caden's with us all the time. And so
you should real quick just give all the different 23s and why that's significant, because people watching may not understand why that's significant.
Oh, I appreciate that, Russ. I did leave that out. I'm going to share with you guys, my son was born on the 23rd of September, and I can't explain why, but 23 follows me around like a lost puppy. It's everywhere I look. If it's at the clock, if it's out in public randomly, if I'm just like scrolling Facebook, or I'll even be watching a show on TV and somebody will just say 23 out of the blue. I don't plan for it, but it happens. So I've taken 23 as a symbolic number, which is why we have 23 chapters in the book. I chose 23 chapters to honor my son, but at the same point, I'm glad I chose 23 chapters because I got to meet 23 people in this book who have incredible stories. And it was not a better way to honor my son than to do it with 23 other people that are so passionate and loving about their grief and their lost journeys. It was absolutely incredible to hold space and walk this journey with all the authors in this project. I've heard from many of you guys. There's an author that didn't get to join us today, and I'm going to share this really quickly. I won't fully share all the details, but I want to share how powerful this was. I was helping this author write their chapter, and there was a part of the chapter she wrote that she didn't quite add enough detail in. And I asked her to add a little more detail about that moment. And long story short, we cried on a Zoom call for 45 minutes together. And I had no idea what can of worms I opened up. But what happened is that she lost her mother to suicide back in the 80s. And back in the 80s, suicide wasn't something that was very well held space for, let alone talked about. It was kind of taboo in a sense to just say, don't talk about it. We're not going to talk about it. We're going to move forward. She was able to have healing conversations with her sister for the first time in decades. And she opened up to me about it. And it was, I'm going to let her share those things on her Facebook because I just like to respect her privacy with it. But she was also able to have a very deep, moving conversation with her father that struggled with that loss in silence. And so this chapter writing process transformed her healing journey. It opened new grief, but it gave her new healing. And to tie this full circle, by the way, this is why I'm glad that Russ was part of this project. He's a prime example of when I hear about men that lock that down for decades, that trauma, that grief, that loss, for pain, and they walk in silence with it. Russ is a prime example of his chapter of why us men don't need to do that and why it's actually bad for us to do it. We need to be able to be vulnerable and emotional and open and process our emotions just like women do. We're no different. We all deserve space to process that grief that we go through. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but I just want to share that that's the power inside this book, guys. That's the power. You got to hear it today for an hour and a half. You got to meet the authors of this book. You got to hear their stories, why they do what they do, and you got to see how they've healed from all of their grief and trauma. And so,
hey, Chris, one more of those crazy coincidences. Tan just put in the chat. Yes, Troy was 47, and my chapter was 140. Started on page 147.
Wow. See, that's that's the thing we can't plan for. That's beautiful.
Pretty cool.
Well, guys, I just want to say as we wrap up, this has been an awesome book launch. I know I've beat it to death, but I'm just going to say my heart is very, very big. I could go on and on for hours, but I have lots of love for each and every one of you guys, every single one of you, because I could not do what I did with this book without you. I also, by the way, from a personal thing I haven't shared with many of you, I would not have healed as much as I have in the last 12 months if it was not for you guys. I would not be where I am today. So I want to make sure you know that because this book is our book. This is our way to help people. And our journey's just getting started, guys. Just so you know, it's just getting started. We have a powerful movement to continue to carry forward. We have lots of people to go out there and serve, and we are going to go out there and show people that grief can be empowering, and it is something that happens for us. It doesn't happen to us. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Real quick before everybody goes, I just wanted to let all the listeners know just a couple other bonuses with the book is the group, right? There's a Facebook group attached to the book where you guys can interact directly with us, the authors. And then there's a bio at the end of each chapter. If you go to that bio, there's a link, and there's a link right there. Right there. There's the group. There's a link right there at the end of the chapter for each author has a bio page, and then you can link back to see all of their social media stuff, any other stuff that they've written. And at the end of each chapter, there'll be a link on that page to take you to the podcast that each author was on, where they were on Chris's podcast, The Empowered Grief Journey.
Yeah, Russ, I appreciate you sharing that. This is the author page, guys. You'll see at the end of every chapter. And what you guys will have is a little bio, a website link, You also have a podcast link there. And if you guys are fancy, you can use a QR code to get there a little faster. But I want to encourage you guys. Every author in this book is very open to connecting. They love questions. They love interacting with people. So do not be shy to reach out. The biggest thing you guys can do if you read their chapters, send them an email, shoot them a message on Facebook or Instagram, and let them know how much that chapter impacted you. I'll share with you guys, I read everybody's chapters somewhere between 5 and 10 times, and I cried a lot. I'm trying to hold it back, but I cried a lot. And it was because I could tell how much love and thought and effort got put into sharing these stories. And it was truly beautiful. And as a beautiful send-off, Kenna is joining us here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wants dinner.
Oh, there we go. So, well, anyway, you guys, thank you for joining all of us today on this Empower Grief Journey Anthology book launch. I hope you all took away some powerful, powerful things from all of these author spotlights today, getting to learn more about their chapters, how to connect with them. Don't be afraid to join us in the group, guys. We want you all in our group. I don't care what walk of life you've been, what loss you've gone through. You have a safe place in our community. And all of the authors, by the way, are in this community. So you can talk to them directly in there. We will be offering some courses in the future here about grief and loss. There's so much talent between all the authors in this group. So you guys will get to work with them one-on-one here. But thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you guys have a great Sunday.